Trump's former director of national intelligence is trying to push the button to enable the klaxons to start, wow, 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 you know, that sort of thing, a warning. He has a piece in the New York Times. The title is, "What's at Stake in This Election? ? The American Democratic Experiment." Woo! Now, this is a guy who was Trump's very brief director of national intelligence. He finally had to leave because working for the monster in the White House just didn't sit very well with him. He was director of national intelligence from 2017 to 2019. Also, Dan Coats served as a U.S. Senator from Indiana from 1989 to 1999, and again from 2010 to 2016. And for 4 years, 2001 to 2005, he was U.S. Ambassador to Germany. And currently, Dan Coats is a senior advisor with the definitely white shoes law firm of King and Spalding. They have a branch of King and Spalding here in Atlanta. Anyway, Dan Coats is very concerned. He was on the inside. He knows what this filthy man, this rotten monster, Donald Trump, has done, is doing, and will continue to do. I think it goes without saying, and most people understand this, except for the QAnon assholes or the brain-dead, mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging Trump supporters. Did you see that video of the group of Trump supporters, about 6 of them busting their way through a Target the other day with their masks off, shouting and screeching and farting and wheezing, "Take your mask off, take it out." Oh, my God, only in America, right? Anyway, Coates writes, "We hear often that the November election is the most consequential in our lifetime. But the importance of the election is not just which candidate or which party wins. Voters also face the question of whether the American democratic experiment, one of the boldest political innovations in human history, will survive." Now, in the first paragraph, of course, I disagree with this first sentence, or the second sentence. Not just which candidate or which party wins. Well, Mr. Coates, I beg to differ with you, but I'll let you make the case. Coates writes, "Our democracy's enemies, foreign and domestic, want us to concede in advance that our voting systems are faulty or fraudulent." Let me pause again. The only one insisting that, Mr. Coates, and you well know this, is the monster in the White House and the gangsters who work for him, including his filthy family. Back to Dan. Our democracy's enemies, foreign and domestic, want us to concede in advance that our voting systems are faulty or fraudulent. They also want us to concede that sinister conspiracies have distorted the political will of the people, and that our public discourse has been perverted by the news media and social networks, riddled with prejudice, lies, and ill will. That judicial institutions, law enforcement, and even national security all have been twisted, misused, and misdirected to create anxiety and conflict, not justice and social peace. Well, Dan, you're going a little bit fast for me here. Our democracy's enemies, foreign and domestic, we know pretty much who the foreign and the domestic enemies are right now that are trying to destroy the country or hobble the country or injure the country to the point where we can't survive. Vladimir Putin and some of Trump's best friends around the world who are also fascist dictators are trying to do that. Domestically, the conspiracies that have distorted political will of the people those can be found either coming from Russian troll farms or from Americans, American traders, dirty, filthy pigs who, I'm sorry, now I'm insulting pigs, dirty, filthy monsters, like Alex Jones, like Sean Hannity, like Rush Limbaugh, who exist inside this country and bleed this country to death in order to continue to make money, but who are destroying it from within. Anyway, Dan says if those are the results of this tumultuous election year, we're lost. No matter which candidate wins. No American, and certainly no American leader, should want such an outcome. Total destruction and sowing salt in the earth of American democracy is a catastrophe well beyond simple defeat and a poison for generations. An electoral victory on those terms would be no victory at all. The judgment of history reflecting on the death of enlightened democracy would be harsh. Now, what Dan Coates is laying out here, even though he's doing it in a very oblique way, in a very indirect way, is exactly what the monster Donald Trump is trying to do, and what he is, up to this point, succeeding. If you take a look at the demons, the escapees from the hellgates who attend his rallies. If you take a look at those people, look at them closely. If you're watching a video, freeze frame the video and take a look, zoom in, take a look at the faces of these people. Dan goes on, the most urgent task American leaders face is to ensure that the election's results are accepted as legitimate. Electoral legitimacy is the essential linchpin of our entire political culture. We should see the challenge clearly in advance and take immediate action to respond. Again, Dan is warning us about the monster in the White House. Who among us has challenged the legitimacy of an election not yet conducted? Who among us, with the bulliest of bully pulpits, keeps raising the issue that if he is not reelected, it'll be because of vote theft, fraud? Who among us is delegitimizing this election before it even occurs? That's right, the orange bastard in the White House. Back to Dan. The most important part of an effective response is to finally, at long last, forge a genuinely bipartisan effort to save our democracy, rejecting the vicious partisanship that has disabled and destabilized government for too long. If we cannot find common ground now on this core issue at the very heart of our endangered system, we never will. Dan. I am so sick of hearing the phrase vicious partisanship that has disabled and destabilized government. Vicious partisanship exists on one side of that divide, and that is these corrupt, decadent, Christian, white, male, neo-fascist members of the United States Senate, and to a lesser degree, but equally disgusting, in the U.S. House of Representatives. The Democrats, as far as I can discern, and it's not because I'm a Democrat any longer, I am not. There are many things about Democratic policies over the past 40 years that turned my stomach, that made me sick. But the Democratic Party is not responsible for this partisanship, this toxic poison that has stopped this country dead. It comes from the neo-fascist, no longer in existence, former Republican Party. I wish Dan and other writers would be clear on that. But on the other hand, ism has got to stop. Back to Dan. Our key goal should be reassurance. We must finally, unambiguously reassure all Americans that their vote will be counted, that it will matter, that the people's will expressed through their votes will not be questioned and will be respected and accepted. Let me digress again. I keep thinking, what was it, December 3rd, 2000? Was it December 3rd or December 13th? It was in December when the neo-fascist United States Supreme Court said that the Supreme Court of Florida, which had ruled that the vote counting must proceed in order to determine would it be Al Gore or George W. Bush, and the United States Supreme Court stopped the vote counting. Because, as they said, and I'm paraphrasing, in their decision, it would be injurious to George W. Bush to continue counting the votes. So, Dan Coates, old buddy, when you make these statements, our key goal should be reassurance. I don't know where you were 20 years ago, Dan Coates. I have no idea. According to what I started this piece that you wrote, what I started it with, in the year 2000, let me see here, you were a senator, a U.S. senator from Indiana. Were you not? I don't remember Senator Coates, Ambassador Coates, DNI Coates. I don't remember. But was your voice one that was raised and said what the Supreme Court is doing is anti-democratic and cannot be accepted if we're to continue as a country that believes and works towards self-governance? I don't remember hearing you, Dan Coates. Oh, maybe you said something and I just didn't hear it. But this is not something that this orange son of a bitch, Donald Trump, has initiated, Mr. Coates. He has only decided to use it to destroy democracy. But it started 20 years ago with that Supreme Court decision. Reassurance, huh? He goes on, I propose that Congress creates a new mechanism to help accomplish this purpose. It should create a supremely high-level, bipartisan and nonpartisan commission to oversee the election. This commission would not circumvent existing electoral reporting systems or those that tabulate, evaluate, or certify the results, but it would monitor those mechanisms and confirm for the public that the laws and regulations governing them have been scrupulously and expeditiously followed, or that violations have been exposed and dealt with without political prejudice and without regard to political interests of either party. Well, that sounds grand, Dan. That sounds just absolutely, positively democratic. But I have to ask you again. When you say there's something should be created that will not circumvent existing electoral reporting systems or those that tabulate, evaluate, or certify the results. Mr. Coates, in that election that the Supreme Court finally completely bastardized with its ruling in favor of George Bush, in that election, I live here in Georgia, Mr. Coates, and our entire state was told, without telling us, that we were going to vote henceforth and here on debold electronic systems of voting, which were proven again and again and again to be fraudulent, to be worthless, to be easily manipulated. And the debold system was invented and manufactured by a right-wing Christian white male Republican who absolutely wanted to determine the outcome of that election. So, Mr. Coates, you want us to continue with that horse shit? I'm sorry, pal. I disagree. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to The Ranting with the audio podcast, or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.